All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Teller Core Chat. Date is March 31st, 2020. Um, so, yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Um, last week was a tech call, so we didn't really do too much in terms of updates or kind of answering your guys' questions. So, hopefully, we can do that a little bit more today. Um, just kind of give you guys quick updates from my end. Um, first thing, if you guys saw last week, we published a Medium article you guys can go read. It's on Oracle best practices. It's a great one for you guys to share if you know any projects that are starting to build and might need an Oracle. It's really simple stuff that it almost just helps to put on paper for projects to really get them to start thinking about these things. The idea that the Oracle is such a fundamental piece of any of these DeFi technologies that it should really be kind of at the forethought of whatever they're trying to build. And then just some of the other Oracle basics, like don't rely on a fast Oracle. You're going to have a bad time in times of network congestion. The other one is just assume your Oracle can fail. Like just go through the mental exercises. It shuts itself down or bad values get through. What happens to your protocol? Not saying that, Teller is going to be hacked or anything, but it's just these are best practices that all these projects should go through. And we're just trying to help by educating the community because you guys would be shocked at how many DeFi projects out there with millions of dollars in them just assume that their Oracle is correct or assume that their Oracle is going to be timely. And they're just bad assumptions to make, as we kind of saw a few weeks ago. So definitely go give it a read, give it a thumbs or a clap on Medium, and pass it around. The other thing, the only kind of tech update I wanted to tell you guys about is some developments in the miner. Nothing to share with you guys right now, but over the next few weeks, what we're working on is updates to the PSRs. So the PSRs are these pre-specified requests. These are what data can be requested of the teller system. Right now, we have pretty simple APIs, the price of Ethereum on Coinbase, for example, or the price of Bitcoin on Binance. But we're making these more robust. We saw that kind of after the March 12th fiasco, and even before then, the plan was always to come up with sort of more robust price feeds and the ideas of things. So, taking a median of a whole bunch of different exchanges, doing volume weighting, doing daily averages. We're going to do things that we're going to handhold these DeFi protocols into here is a robust thing where you don't even have to go build out which APIs you're going to query yourselves. Like this right here is a good one for you. So we're working on creating those updates. It's a lot of kind of just work on the database piece. But as you guys know, the problem with updating the PSRs is that, so say like request ID 1 right now represents the ETH US dollar price on Binance. And in the future, it's just going to represent the ETH US dollar price as a median of a bunch of exchanges. When you update that, if you're still on the old PSR, you're now submitting the wrong value. So it's really important that we kind of synchronize all of our miners in this upgrade. And the way that we're working on doing that is we're pushing out, we're going to be pushing out a miner upgrade, and you're just going to download it and a new PSR file. So you'll have like 2 files, and then it's going to know, hey, at this time, this day and this time, switch over to start using the new one. That way you won't sort of get caught shorthanded. So as long as we're going to probably give you guys a 2-week long period. Hey, everybody, make sure you upgrade your miners within this 2 weeks. And then it'll switch over properly. After that, you're kind of on your own. If anybody has sort of a custom miner or something like that you're building and you think that that's too short of a time period, you can contact with me. I don't think it should be, since we're just adjusting the database piece and not necessarily anything that has to do with solving the solution. But just to make sure, you can contact with me if you think it's going to be an issue. Some other cool things. So we're making some other little upgrades as well, but it should make for a better user experience for everyone running. And the final updates, I think tellor.fund had its first success over the past week. So you guys saw it was a nice little one we threw up there, Interaxis. They approached us about doing a video on Teller. The video basically just kind of go over Teller 101. They wanted $200 to do that. So we put it up on tellor.fund, and it was nice and small, and it reached the goal, which was exciting. So we'll be looking forward to a Teller 101 video from them. We've chatted with them several times before. They're nice guys. But yeah, if you have any more tellor.fund ideas, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to put it up there. And then also, if you are a developer and want to get involved in the bounties, we'll link those. But if you are into front-end development, if you're into kind of peer-to-peer software or even Solidity, reach out to us. We have lots of work, and we'd love to give you some tributes for doing it. So I think that's about it for the updates. This week, you guys should hold us to it. So start yelling at us if it comes Friday. We're going to push out a V2 doc. We're going to give you guys some teasers and some proposals for what we're going to do in version 2 of Teller. Version 2 of Teller is probably still, 4 or 5 months away. It's just, these are the proposals about what we're going to be building, and then we'll go through an audit and testing and everything like that. But there's going to be some good, exciting ones, which should get you guys excited. So, yeah, look forward to that later this week.
Good stuff. Shall we jump in?
Yeah, I think, and now we'll just, I guess, move on to the questions, which is why I think most of you guys listen.
Yeah. So we got 26 responses, 26 questions today. Some of them we'll try to move a little quicker through. But the first one is, if you encourage staking with a long unbonding period, wouldn't it be harder to break Teller? I.e. harder to buy up a large portion of the supply?
Well, that wouldn't be harder to buy up a large portion of the supply. It would be harder. So you would be more incentivized to not break it because you're locked in longer. But you would assume, I don't know, like, I mean, even now, like, our staking, like, it takes 7 days to withdraw. Like, if somebody breaks Teller, I would assume that the price would adjust accordingly within 7 days. You could always make it longer. Yeah, I think, it's just like you want a long staking period, but you don't want too long. I think a lot of these projects, they'll put in these ridiculous lengths for staking requirements. Some of the ones that I do like, though, are where, like, you have a time stake, and that goes into your how much reputation in the system you have. But those can also be kind of bought and sold, and it's really tough to sort of do in an anonymous way. So yeah, it's always really tough, but you would want to kind of balance it. Overall, it's just anytime you just have a pure staking system, it's tough to kind of beat the civil attacks in there. And then it's also, yeah, a lot of it just sort of rides then on your token and your voting. So I don't know. We're always open to it, though, if you have a concrete idea. But I think just like a longer staking period wouldn't necessarily mean a whole lot. But yeah, without looking too much into the proposal.
Yeah. All right. Next one is, are you intentionally making the token illiquid so that it's hard to break Teller?
Maybe. I don't know how you intentionally make something illiquid.
I think not spending all the money that we apparently have on listings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, and we published an article on Medium about liquidity and
reread
like
that article.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too. I think who's looking to buy. If you're looking to buy at a fair price, I think you can do so even on the current venues. If you're looking to buy, like I think one spammer posted they were willing to sell 250 grand worth of Teller on the main page, and yes, that kind of liquidity does not exist. Sort of because right now that's like 1% of the supply, or I think even 10% of the market cap. So if you're willing to sell 10% of the market cap, that's like a market moving trade. You don't want to have that kind of liquidity in your system. Obviously as we go up in market cap, hopefully liquidity comes, and I think it will. So but right now, we have a low market cap, so you should have low liquidity. It's just the way it works.
How do you think crypto held up during the Corona crash? Well,
Mike.
we are still here. At least we are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not very well. Like if we retraced 50% in one day.
Yeah, we did worse than the real markets did.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down. I think, crypto in a lot of ways is still the speculative asset. So when shit hits the fan, the first thing that a portfolio manager is going to liquidate is going to be their speculative assets. They're not going to get rid of their bonds. They're going to sell off the things that might retrace 50% in a day. The really volatile things, and crypto is still a speculative asset. It's not this. People like to say it's a safe haven asset, but it's just not yet. I think over time, hopefully we can get there, but that comes with kind of actual use. And, that's like a real safe haven asset. It has some sort of intrinsic value to it or usage. So like, if a piece of corn or something, like you can eat it. If all else fails, or, like gold, at least you can trade it and you hope it holds its value. But crypto, you can't even use it for payments really anywhere. So it makes it really tough to hold anything but speculative value at the moment until the use cases really start skyrocketing. That's my take on it. Hopefully crypto does a little bit better and we learn a little bit from this crash.
Yeah, that's my thing about this, is that crypto can come out of this a lot more mature, and there's an opportunity here to become a better community as a whole. And so that's how I'm staying positive for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you could always I'll pull out like the Austrian economist in me. Market crashes are a great thing because crashes and bear markets are really where you find out who's a good project. So, in 2017, like 2018, actually, that whole bear market, it actually did a decent job of weeding out a lot of those shitcoins. A lot of them kind of got caught, with no pants on when the tide came out. So,
and yeah, it was deep and long enough that they're never going to come back, and that's good.
Yeah, and that's great. You want those scams to be exposed in these bear markets, and hopefully, I think this sort of drawdown, you saw a lot of DeFi projects. This is going to it's going to start weeding out some of the DeFi projects. Hopefully, the ones that weren't built quite right, that have, a lot of them are going back to the drawing boards here over the next few months, and I think it's going to be great for Tellor. But yeah, it's the market corrections in these really volatile times are good for companies that can sort of withstand them, because it gets rid of a lot of the noise makers in the space, if you will.
Is there a relationship between hash rate and price?
Yes, I would say so. Not technically, but if you have a higher price, then people would be willing to pay more in hardware costs to mine your coin, and that's the hash rate's going to go up. So it's a hash rate lags price. Be my
what is Bitcoin good for? A store of value.
Yeah. No, I mean Bitcoin.
Not buying coffee.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the payment thing, the payment meme of Bitcoin a long time ago, and then it sort of lost that. I think there still can be some utility in Bitcoin if they can really get sort of kind of these Lightning to become actually trustless and a lot of people to use it, but it's really hard, especially with the store of value narrative, because I think, at least for me, some other coin, like whether it be Ethereum or something else that actually gets usage in some other capacity, will then be a more liquid store of value. So yeah, I don't know what Bitcoin's necessarily good for. Back in the day, like it was really big on the black markets too. But now people are realizing it's not as anonymous as it was. So, I think in the future, it either needs to figure out ways to adapt to fit some of those use cases, or else it'll sort of become obsolete.
Are DEXs ever going to get a significant market share?
Thoughts?
I mean, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I think
Yeah,
they've grown. I mean, they've certainly grown their market share in the last 2 years.
no, I love dexes. I mean, for the most part, like if you're willing, the spreads, and you do pay a little, you have to pay a little bit in gas costs, and it's not quite as fast as a centralized exchange, but they are so easy now.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually easier for me to use a dex than it is for me to send my coins to a centralized exchange, wait for confirmations, and start trading on these things. It's really easy. I would rather use a dex where I don't have to log in, where I don't have to, even like the old relay models where you didn't even have to deposit them there. You could just place an order. It was super easy. So
I
yeah,
think the majority of the people, it's just that they haven't tried it yet. So it's like they're afraid to go through a new process. But everybody went through that process the first time they ever traded or sent Bitcoin to a real exchange anyway. Like I remember my first time, sending cryptocurrency to a centralized exchange and the process you just described, like that was foreign and it was kind of weird and but we've all gotten used to that and
yeah,
are comfortable with it. So I think dexes are just out of some people's comfort zone, but it's getting quite refreshing to use dex in my experience too.
yeah, and I think people just have to, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be a high frequency market maker? Like, yeah, doing so in a dex is not going to be fun.
Sure. And how many people are there really doing that? I don't know.
But yeah, like you're not going to want to do that. Like it's for something slower. It's for something, things that should be built on chain. And I like dexes being on chain. They have a really cool use case. So yeah, I definitely think they're going to be around for a while.
So I guess on the other side of the coin, is BitMEX good or bad for the space?
So
I'll give
BitMEX, for
you,
those that don't know, is the derivatives platform for cryptocurrency. So it's a centralized exchange. You can do like 100x Bitcoin, 100x Ethereum, long and short derivatives, and it creates some.
did you write a piece back in the day on BitMEX future?
Probably something, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was, our derivatives bad for
Yeah. So
buying
that's,
assets, and the
yeah.
examples, no. You just have to think through a lot of it. Kind of like your expectations on liquidity, I think, are a lot of ones, because like people are starting to realize that with flash loans now too.
Mhm.
Like if somebody gets a hold of 10% of your token supply, they can do malicious things. Imagine that. But like BitMEX, the way it works is, you can take out 100x short on Bitcoin, or 100x short on like one of these tokens, for instance. Now you have a really big incentive to go and like do something malicious. So like, a lot of these, it's sort of, you should be building your protocols to be sort of, I like to call it like whale resistant. So like if somebody has a giant incentive to break it, can they? And you should sort of know that number. Because that's all it's putting kind of into light. People, because that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is, crypto is still relatively illiquid, even on the spot exchanges. So like Binance and Coinbase and things like that, it's not very liquid compared to a lot of the real world assets. So versus like an S&P 500 futures contract or something. So the people still can manipulate it all the time, and they do. So like they'll go and they'll take out a giant position on BitMEX, and then they'll go manipulate the prices on these exchanges, and that's it. You're still able to do that on these exchanges, and that's, I think it may lead to regulatory problems for us in the future. But it's just like, just get your expectations right. If you're trying to day trade against these massive guys doing this, it's not gonna be fun. But if it's just all short term stuff, so just try and ignore it, and it'll be fine.
Do projects need bull markets in order to grow their market cap? I think that, it helps. I don't think, we grow our market cap. Obviously, as the supply grows, it grows. But as long as a project is really doing the right things and they're developing and they're sharing those things with their community and they're building a community, then your market cap will go up. It'll just be a lot slower if it's a bear market.
Yeah, I think bull markets have their benefit. Like you saw, like the 2017 bull market and everything like that, a lot of projects got so much money, and it can lead to a lot of good things. Like, the fact that Ethereum had so much money led to a whole bunch of grants. It led to kind of the fact
Yep.
that so many people made so much money off of the Ethereum rise. A lot of those people just started companies in the Ethereum space. That's what leads to that, and that leads to more growth. So bull markets are really good for just everything kind of tangential to even the token project itself, which is essential.
Yeah.
Like I think Teller, the biggest downfall to Teller in a bear market, even if we start rocking it and just getting usage, even if we get 100% usage of everybody on Ethereum, like if Ethereum continues to go down and no more projects, VC funding for all new projects dries up, like it's going to hurt Teller because there's not new projects coming on to use us. So, we're sort of codependent on the crypto space doing well. Yeah, don't know if that's a good answer.
It depends on how bad the bear market is. I mean, I think we talked about benefits of the bear market too, is it highlights the good projects, the ones that can still develop and grow even in bad times, shows their quality. So next question is, how do you think about token design?
How do you think about it?
Cautious and cynical, and if you start off saying, how can we build this project without a token, I think is the good place to start. That way, when you have a token, it's because it's actually creating a real essential job in your protocol.
Yeah. You have to think of tokens as more of kind of like anytime you have a token in the space, its goal should be to eventually have this utility and this kind of community basis around it. So that's ultimately what you have to fall back on. It's a lot of people, they like to think of it as this. They just make it like artificially scarce, and you have to jump through all these tokenomics hoops. But yeah, I think ultimately it's just having a token in should be something that creates some usefulness on your network, and just try and make your network as secure and as good as possible. And where the token fits in, the token fits in.
What is attractive about the crypto space? I mean,
our team.
Yes. Yes. We don't need to rehash like why we got into space, but I think all those reasons are what's attractive about it. It's like the mission statement for blockchain itself, the values of the space. Also, just the fact that it's, to be as corny as possible, it's one of the more cutting edge things to be into. So it's exciting to just be a part of any industry where everything is new, and every year is you look back at the year prior and think of, oh, how naive were we? That's a really cool industry to be in.
Yeah, and I think we always we continue harping on it. It's like the value case is like the censorship resistance, and we've been in like really good times here for the last 10 years, kind of as a world. So you forget, like, Bitcoin was originally created, like they didn't like the Federal Reserve. It was, you had a lot of the besides like the original just tech geeks, a lot of the original use cases were sort of, you can get away from a US dollar or something like that. And I think now that if we go into another, say, government power grab or something like that, you're going to see new use cases pop up because people are now concerned more about, say, privacy in their healthcare data. Or you're going to, if the governments start doing things such as, mandating that you turn over all phone records, then maybe people will start caring about using privacy or on their messaging apps. And that's what's going to lead to the growth in our space. Or, financial regulators, especially in bear markets, they always crack down. So, they're going to be going through all of the derivatives trading, and the people who are caught doing things that made them a whole bunch of money during any sort of crash. And that's actually a proper role for DeFi. whenever you want to do something and you don't want the regulators to be able to stop you from doing it, that's whenever you should be going to DeFi. And that's what we need to get back to building for. I feel like a lot of DeFi in the good times, or over the last 2018, 2019, we were building it kind of for, the shitcoin speculator. You're building DeFi as these like weird gambling apps that we can all just sort of try and go get returns on our returns. And um, it's like this weird cyclical thing of trying to all
You got
just,
a T-shirt.
yeah, well, everyone's just trying to cannibalize each other's customers because, but I think ultimately we succeed whenever we try and go grab people who have real use cases in the real world. And then it's, hey, DeFi solves this, like like you can't do this financial transaction in the real world. Hey, but now you can over here on Ethereum. And that's whenever we get that influx of people, that every time you get those people, that's whenever it becomes exciting. Like 2017 Ethereum, it was like you had a whole bunch of, at least the early days of the ICO, it was like you had this mismatch of, it was really hard to raise capital to go start a startup, so we'll just issue tokens and do a startup that way. And it was a great model that eventually just got co-opted into this thing that's mainly scams, but it is a really good model to be able to do an ICO. And like, it was sort of getting around some of the regulations that made it really hard to issue stock to everyone. So yeah, anyway.
And there's also just something really seductive about being a part of the alternative or something that's against the status quo. I think there's a group of individuals out there that sort of lend themselves to seeking those opportunities out. So
Sure.
It probably matches our music taste as well. So this is along the same lines. What are the narratives that are going to fuel the current crypto cycle?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we're in narrative discovery mode right now after the DeFi, Black Thursday, and because DeFi was that narrative for a long time. It was about
I think it's
making returns on your returns.
Yeah, I think it still can be. I think it's just going to be sort of this shift, hopefully, towards something a little bit more pure in terms of who you're actually building for. Yeah.
Unstoppable applications. I think we all love those type of narratives.
Yeah, so it's, who your customer is going to be, because I think a lot of those other people are going to go away. And yeah, what exactly you're doing in the space should hopefully become transparent, because once the easy VC money goes away for a lot of these scams, hopefully we get back to something a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, what other narratives? I mean, even in the Bitcoin space, what narrative do you think will come next for Bitcoin? Or are they still sticking with store of value? I don't even know.
Yeah, they're sticking with it. All right, let's try to, we might need to ramp up the pace here. We still got a few to go through, yeah. It's hard. We want to give each one of these questions the time it deserves. But
the essay, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So is Teller going to expand and offer services outside of just price feeds? I'm assuming, I guess you mean other types of data, other use cases.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer this one. I think not at the moment would be the answer. So obviously you can do, we could easily do other types of data. Our original idea was we could even bring in like this arbitrary bytes data where you would focus on, say, bridging Bitcoin and Ethereum, or bridging all these different chains, or you could use it for like data storage on top of like validating things like that. And that can all be in the future. I think right now, though, what the space doesn't have good decentralized price feeds, and it's such a pressing need that's what we're really trying to double down on and focus on. If we had, I think maybe bridges would be next, but it's tough to see. We want Oracle. The structure of our Oracle works for kind of any data, but then where we kind of focus our time and efforts, because the more arbitrary you make it, if you say you can do anything, it just gets the UX gets sort of muddled. Whereas the more we narrow our focus, kind of we've been just trying to narrow our focus more and more, just because it creates just a better user experience for that one thing, which, you know, we're going after price feeds at the moment.
And there are other numerical types of data that would be relatively seamless for us to use if there was user demand. And we've talked about like inflation rates or unemployment numbers or the CPI.
We're going to be pulling on the CPI here.
Yeah.
New PSR upgrade, so
here we go. See?
Pay attention. It's a weird one though, because CPI, for those of you that don't know, CPI updates monthly. So
that's the consumer price index.
Yeah, so inflation rate. If you want slow data, you just need once a month updates. So,
what ETH upgrades, Ethereum upgrades, would benefit Tellor the most?
Ooh. They all sort of go hand in hand. I mean, it would be cool, like, obviously, like, just speed and in general makes it really easy. But you know, even data storage. So, you know, them just increasing how much data can fit in a block makes it easier for us to push more data on chain. I'd love for the gas prices to go down too. There's a few proposals to make kind of the gas prices make things a little bit cheaper, which also goes into scaling. But it would be great if miners didn't have to spend that much money, or people didn't really have to spend any gas. But you need gas, but it sucks that it can get so expensive at times.
What are the worst ideas that you hear that keep getting thrown around?
I don't know if I want to pick on anybody.
I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I hated the whole security tokens meme for a long time, where they were going to put regulated securities on top of Ethereum. It just didn't make any sense. Because regulated securities had to trade on, you know, I came from a regulatory background, they had to trade on a registered trading venue. So you were going to issue tokens on Ethereum that had to trade on a registered trading venue. It was just weird. Because you had like a trading venue that could always censor you, and you had to add in all these whitelists and things. But it seems like that one's died down. I mean, the biggest meme, it's still around so much. You'll just see so many projects that claim they're so fast and so scalable.
Mine.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, you're not. You know. So yeah, if somebody says they're really, really fast and really, really secure, they're just lying.
So give us your big hairy vision for Tellor, the dream, not just next year's vision, but the ultimate vision. I don't know if we can really go into our big hairy cockamamie schemes for Tellor.
Right. Well, are we going to tell them about the clone army? This is
no, don't talk about the clone army.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, so Tellor, like, my ultimate vision would be we really just become kind of a standard oracle in the space. So we move on past price data, we move on past kind of all these other pieces, and we really just become a chain for we really just help move everything forward, and the community just owns it. You know, I would love to.
Yes, and being like a DAO, like community run.
Yeah.
Kicked us out.
Well, even just like, you know, similar to like the aura that like the Ethereum Foundation has, or you know, just something of where we're like advisors at some point, you know, and it's this self-moving, self-generating thing where upgrades are just handled by a community at large, and it's just, you know, the things that are being built on it and we don't even know. Like, that would be where it just becomes, you know, it is really about creating that kind of community of people using it and what people are demanding, and that would be a dream to me, just to see it grow just beyond us. So yeah, I know that's not a big hairy dream, but,
well, we have them, we just can't talk about them yet. Let's see here. Am I right in thinking that you believe targeting new DeFi projects is a better strategy than selling established DeFi projects on the benefits of Teller. If that's correct, could you please elaborate on that line of thinking?
For me, it's you want to do both because you want the established projects to get the newer projects. Usually newer projects look to the established projects for kind of validation in the technology, but it's really tough. Kind of like we talked about with the Oracle best practices. A lot of these older projects that are already out there are using these centralized oracles. So to get them to switch over to a new one, it's really hard. That you have to get them to basically upgrade a lot of their code. It's a whole process because they have to slow down their oracles. They have to add in all these fallback features, and they should have done it anyway, but a lot of them didn't. So some of the issues could be,
Yeah, so it's better when you find these new, smarter projects that want to differentiate themselves from their competitors by being more decentralized or, have better best practices about their Oracle. It's easier to sell them, or, in fact, they'll come and reach out to you. And so it becomes an easier relationship, but you got to do both. I think I know who asked this question, and that was my response as well. You got to play both games. You can't wait for the older projects to eventually come around because then you're waiting on them. So yeah, doing both. I would like to know how Teller will improve speed in offering data. 10-minute blocks is too much. How could you compete against Band or Chainlink? Can you explain how Teller is more convenient? And in which cases are they more convenient? Are you more convenient?
I don't know if convenience is a battle we want to fight, but pay attention to our V2 doc coming out later this week.
Exactly.
So we go into that, we'll be making it a little bit faster. But like we said, I think a lot of people, they're also mistaken kind of about how fast Chainlink and Band are, or can be. And then B, just kind of what things you need to build on these. It's just building really fast and instantaneous protocols is something nobody's got yet. So
moving on. Is there a need for the ability to compile more languages in the space? Or Solidity actually fine?
I think Solidity's fine.
Doesn't everybody say Solidity sucks?
Yeah, no, it does. But I mean, it's like, it's getting better. Ideally, but it's always one of those things. Like, my fear is maybe like eventually we'll get there. Like the dream is like, oh, like every language will be able to compile down to it. But just take time, because like every time you add, like every time there's a new language, like we're like really hesitant to move. There was like Viper, and every time there's a new one, there's always bugs in it. So you have to, like, each thing is only like as robust as for how long it's been alive. So Solidity's like slowly becoming more and more robust just because it's been alive for longer. So, if they came out with like a Python compiler down to the EVM, I would just be really sort of hesitant to use it, because it would be like, yeah, just give it a year and you'll find, it's completely insecure. So, so it could make it better, but Solidity's semi easy to learn already. It's just there's a lot of kind of nuances in the language. So, and it creates job security for us. So make people use Solidity. It gives me a little bit more comfort.
And shout out to our fellow consensus grantee, Reach platform. Check them out if you haven't heard about them. They're developing a new smart contract language that is sounds really cool, but I'm not a developer or a coder, so I couldn't really speak on it. But they're good guys, smart guys. Check them out. Reach. Is the dev team willing to expand? And if yes, are they actively looking for expansion, or is it something for the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the way that we usually do it. So we've hired several contractors who work with us kind of on an ongoing basis or a recurring basis, and we bring them in to help us with the project. And hopefully at some point we'll have kind of the capital to really expand the actual team. We'd love to do that at some point, but that's much more of a philosophical fit as far as finding the right people we want to work with. Right now, I'm sure, as most of you guys can imagine, every project in crypto like ourselves is probably on a holding pattern when it comes to hiring or really expanding, just because you have to see if the price is going to tank another 50%. Or, obviously if it triples, then yeah, we'd love to look for more people. But, right now we do have the bounties program out there. We love working with people, even like any of our hires and the contractors that we do. They're people who are involved in the community that we know and that like getting involved and sort of understand it. So
yeah, and if we do, and when we do hire, we would love it to come from the community. And so I'm not saying that we're just waiting for that to happen, but that's kind of how we want it to happen. So someone
there's
please
such
pick
a
us up on
trust.
some of these bounties.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna skip a when Binance question. Just ask the Telegram chat; they'll tell you. They know everything.
Yeah.
Can you sum up what's actually different between Chainlink and Tether? And don't just say we are decentralized.
Sure.
We are decentralized.
So
They use authorized permission nodes.
yeah, so the way that Chainlink works, so I'll give like the 20-second version of how I think Chainlink works.
And yes, we're all figuring it out slowly.
Yeah, it's really tough. So they have authorized nodes. So Chainlink is not this thing that you can go request data to and it'll put it in your smart contract right away. They don't have that live yet. What they have live right now are these price reference contracts. So they have several assets that they update prices on chain. And the way that they do that is they have various whitelisted nodes that do this. So you would go to Chainlink, you have to stake a whole bunch of Link, and then they approve you to run a Chainlink node, and you get to update prices according to how they specify every. How often do they update them? You're saying like.
I think the 8th one is 21 minutes or something like that right now.
Yeah, so all these parties.
It's a 1% deviation in the price it'll update as well.
So yeah, they run these nodes and they update the price on chain, and then other parties can read the Chainlink value pushed on chain. So it's kind of like, since they have like whitelisting and kind of proof of stake, I like to call it like a delegated proof of stake sort of system, where it's these large staked parties that are all known. That would be the 101 of how Chainlink works. So, if Chainlink is this like DPoS system that pushes all these prices on chain, Tellor is more of the open network that there is no delegation, and that's really the difference. And we think that the world can do better than kind of these DPoS systems. Because if like Maker, for instance, Maker is also the same thing. They don't even have the staking. They just have it's more of like a proof of authority network. They have a bunch of parties who they all know are whitelisted to push the price updates on chain. So that's kind of the difference in it.
And we also have the disputability function, the security behind disputability, and I think it's a major part.
So yeah, that's one of the big pieces. Whereas Chainlink right now, you would have to handle in your own protocol if Chainlink values are wrong. Not they push all their values on chain, and then if they're wrong, they don't really have any way to fix it. At least that I believe. Whereas Tellor sort of handles that. We take the value off chain and we slash the person. So I know Chainlink has a bunch of updates down the line. it's just really hard to see, because if you go read their white paper, it actually has nothing to do with the chain link that's currently deployed on the network. So it makes it sort of tough to figure out what you're arguing against.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the general idea is, though, that we're open for anybody to run. Anybody can become a validator on Teller. There's nothing we can do to prevent you from doing that. There's nothing we can do to prevent you from pushing values on chain. And that's why we sort of, we boil it down to the one word, the one sentence difference is we're decentralized, and that's kind of what it comes down to, is we're pushing it so that way anybody can become a validator, anybody can become somebody who places data on chain, and that's what differentiates us. Because
It's also fair to mention that we did no ICO or pre-mine, and we sort of we arose out of different circumstances, and so we have different tokenomics because of that. So, however important you find that, that is an important differentiator as well. Does Teller need layer ones in order to get better? Basically, is Teller's potential? Sorry, the syntax is off. Or maybe my syntax is off. Is Teller's potential restricted by the layer one it sits on? And how limited do you feel by the current tech in the space? So this is kind of like the Ethereum scaling question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's limited. Whatever you can do is limited by the layer one, but
yeah.
You sort of have to work with the technology that's given. There's use cases for Ethereum, even if it remains this slow forever. There's use cases for Bitcoin if it remains this slow forever. It's just, you have to build with that known. So, like if you're trying to build something that's much faster or much more scalable on top of a layer one that isn't scalable, it's not going to work. So you just have to sort of recognize that. And I think at the same time, there's a lot of other projects in the space that, expect that Ethereum is going to scale in a year or in 2 years, and they're sort of dependent on that for their project to be successful, because they need millions of users for their tokenomics to make sense. We did not build it that way. We built our system assuming that Ethereum stays kind of roughly just like it is for a while, because that's probably what it's going to be. So we want to be able to be successful now.
Great strides accomplishing. I can't read today, guys. Great strides accomplished in the Teller mining area. Thank you. Will you be applying to what to mine once pools are officially announced? I would love to. That would be. I don't see why.
Yeah, so a lot more pools are coming online. It's like hard to keep track of everything, because a lot of them don't contact us even. They just like start mining with their people on Teller, and then we find out about it later through the community, which is always weird. But yeah, if you guys want if you want to be listed in our documentation, or you want, if you know of any pools, reach out to me. I'd love to put kind of some more documentation in our docs on how to mine on these different pools. But we're trying to keep up with it. But as you guys know, it's I mean, the whole thing's just been developing like crazy over the past month even. So
this question is a good one. What benefits will the peer-to-peer gossip network bring to Teller, and how does a gossip network differ from current Teller network?
Fun stuff.
So this person's obviously been paying attention to what we've been hinting.
Yeah, this person. So some of the hints for like what the miner is going to look like. As you know, right now the miner, so it has to solve this messy proof of work computation to submit the values. But what values it submits is from this database. And this database, right now it's just, we go and fetch a bunch of APIs, say Binance API or Coinbase API, and it stores them. The problem with that, we'll take a median of those exchanges, is let's say Binance and Coinbase get together and say, hey, let's shut down our APIs for an hour so these DeFi projects don't know what the price is, because they're all reliant on our APIs. That would be a big problem. What the peer-to-peer network would let you do is, if they shut down my access to the APIs, I could ask you, hey, do you know the price of Bitcoin? And you could say, yeah, like I'm still in. or even you could even have things in there like manual entries. So you could just go in and type in, hey, the
Just
Bitcoin price
gossip
right
about
now.
the price.
Yeah, the Bitcoin price is 8,000. You send it over. Oh, this person, I've been connected with them for a while. It's trustworthy. Or 4 of my connected nodes all say it was 8,000. So we'll trust that and we'll submit it on chain. Then it's much harder. Even those APIs or these price things that wherever you're getting the price from, not one of them can censor it. You can all sort of talk to each other about what the price is, and we're going to try and build in ways for consensus there. So that should be super exciting. That's what we're ultimately working on. So that way, even the exchanges running it can't censor it. So
Yeah. And so the cool thing about that, narratively speaking, is that then Teller becomes more of the source of the data than
right,
the APIs themselves. So,
right, because I mean, obviously, you can go trade on Binance or Coinbase and tank the price, but then it's like costly to manipulate the price. That's actually price manipulation on the spot exchange, which we would report, but they can't just have the price stay the same and lie to you on their API, which would be where you have an Oracle problem.
are you a fan of hash rate derivatives?
They've been around for a long time, actually. People wrote them on Bitcoin back in the day, and nobody really uses them. The big problem with hash rate,
Yeah, why don't they use them? Because it seems like a good, useful thing.
so like the idea is that miners would hedge the hash rate. So if the hash rate goes up,
Right.
they get paid. Or if the hash rate goes down, obviously they'd be mining more. But usually with like derivative products like that, like there's no actual reason that you would need a hash rate derivative to be decentralized. So like you could actually just launch a hash rate derivative in kind of a centralized fashion. And but it just seems like from what I've heard, we used to do derivatives. Nobody actually used hash rate derivative products. Like they went to all the miners, a bunch of big finance companies went to all the miners and they're like, hey, would you like to do a hash rate derivative? And all the miners were like, nah, like we're cool. Yeah. Like they almost liked the price speculation of Bitcoin. It was I think maybe as the space gets bigger, I don't know, or more professional, if you will, they might start doing some hash rate derivatives. But yeah,
Hedge our risk? What are you talking about?
yeah, exactly. There seems to just be no demand for it. But I mean, they're cool ideas. You could always hedge it, but yeah.
What do you think about Binance's CoinMarketCap acquisition? I haven't formulated an opinion yet.
Oh man, it's been like 30 seconds, so I have.
Yeah.
I think the fear here would be like Binance. Binance would say like, hey, well, we're gonna start, weighting the market caps and the prices based upon the trustworthiness of the exchanges, which would sound like a good idea.
But they're a little biased.
But they might be biased towards Binance as an exchange being, a 10 out of 10 trustworthiness.
11 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be like the fear, like that they would be pushing other coins to the top, or, like not like taking off coins on competing exchanges. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, though. Like I don't know.
Kudos to CoinMarketCap, though.
Yeah, the most successful coin
Yeah.
is well, and then CoinMarketCap's founder is still anonymous. If you've read some of the conspiracy theories, so like my theory is that it was actually just CZ who started it, and then he just sold it to himself for $400 million as a way to cash out of this thing.
That's brilliant.
Right.
I believe it. What influence does Corona have on your work? More time in sweatpants?
Yeah, we're not in the office right now.
Yeah, we're not in the office. Having to be separated.
Yeah,
Withdrawal.
that's like the only difference I would say. It doesn't and the biggest probably, it has been really slow for other calls too. Like, usually we have calls with a lot of, up and coming projects or other teams in the space. And especially we do a lot of calls with teams over in Europe, and they've, it's really slow coming in. So, I'd expect kind of the developments to be slower just because understandably they're not working.
Yeah.
So
there's a few places that wanted to do AMAs, for example, that wanted to delay it because of what's going on, especially Chinese AMAs over the last, a month ago, pushed till this month. And so a lot of things are just being pushed aside a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we were, there was like there's been some events, obviously. So there was the event in Vienna. There was the, ETH New York coming up, Ethereal. We were planning on going to DC Blockchain Summit, a bunch of these things that we were hoping we would eventually, like, maybe go talk to some projects and thinking about getting some exposure there. But they're all virtual now. So that basically virtual means no one's going to attend in my experience with these things. So makes it really tough. So hopefully, you have to get kind of creative on how to reach some of these projects and how to reach some of these users.
So another Corona question. This is the last one. What precautions do you and the team take with the coronavirus, and where are you guys from exactly?
So we're all in the greater DC area. So here in the US, I think we're all kind of in our houses.
Yeah.
We luckily, you just go to the grocery store and that's it. Be careful.
Well, Nick has one daily outing.
Got to go to the grocery store and things like that, and it's
get some vitamin D.
Yeah, but other than that,
we've been doing healthy diets this month.
So, Mike actually just finished a month of carnivore diet, so if you guys can see a difference, let us know.
And him and Brenda did a month of vegetarian and vegan. They sort of ping ponged between the two, various levels of vegetarianism.
So we've been handling the slight change differently. So, but yeah, it went well. Hopefully everybody can stay safe and this whole thing can get wrapped up here soon. So I'm optimistic still. So anyway, that's it for the questions?
That's it, although the number of responses went up, but I don't see new questions.
But
anyway, that is it. That was all of them.
Thanks everyone for joining. If you guys have any other questions, we try and stay on Telegram as much as possible, but the moderators and the community is great. Keep it up, guys.
We should do an official welcome to Teddy, our moderator. We really spoke about him publicly. He's been really great. Yes, he's been good. Bringing another level of professionalism and tidiness to our Telegram channel, and that's all because the community has been growing so fast, and we felt that it was the time we needed someone like him. Not to say every other moderator we've had hasn't done a great job too. We need some. Yes, exactly. Checks payable to Michael Zemrose. Thank you. Anyway, to Teddy, everybody.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining. Talk to you guys next week. Definitely reach out if you have any questions, and stay safe.
Keep a lookout for the V2 article.
Yep.